live as we are cranking up here for the last hour here on a Wednesday. I want to, we still got calls rolling in and we'll get to those in just a second. Let me reset some things here at the top of the hour. First up, the weather. We got a lot of rain coming tomorrow, just some thunderstormy kind of weather. Could be thunder and lightning. No real severe weather threat, but it's going to be just inclement for most of the day. So just be aware of that. And it looked like I thought this stuff was going to end around 1 or 2, but it may roll into the afternoon based on the latest forecasting. But we do need the rain, so prepare accordingly. It's going to warm up too. In fact, it's kind of getting a little stuffy in here now. I think the weather's starting to get a little warmer, and we've got at least 2 weeks of nice 70, high 60s and 70s weather for the next 2 weeks, which is good news for me. I'm happy about that. We're chasing a couple of bigger stories today and kind of been doing this since we got on the air. First up, we've had an incident with the Cubans, or at least America has got some things to sort out. Here's what we think we know. There was a speedboat, and the Cubans were the ones that put this story out today. There was a speedboat near or in their territorial waters earlier today. They approached it with one of their guard vessels. They said the people on the speedboat opened up fire on the Cubans. The Cubans shot back and killed 4 of the people on the boat, took the other 6 that were injured to shore to medical help, and then they put this word out. Now, according to the Iranians, these people were in their waters. It was a ship, it was a boat that was registered to the state of Florida. And immediately when they said speedboat in Florida, I was thinking some kind of smuggling. Turned out New York Times and others are reporting from inside sources with the government that these were Cuban people related to some people in Cuba trying to smuggle, get them out of Cuba to freedom. These kind of flight operations have been going on, of course, for decades. And I told a couple of anecdotal stories about operations I was exposed to years and years ago where they were doing this kind of stuff. So how does our government handle this? What we don't know is, well, whether the Cubans are telling the truth about this boat opening fire. That doesn't seem to be something that would happen, unless I guess they thought they were going to get caught by the Cubans. They might have been trying to get away. If you're using a speedboat, you're trying to use speed as your advantage to get your people out and get back to the United States. So that's a lot of drama. So we don't know if they really opened fire, and we don't know if they were really in those territorial waters. It would make sense that they might have been if they were trying to do a smuggle. It was apparently from an island that's just off the northern coast. And so that's about all we know right now. There's, again, reporting that it was not a government boat. This was a group of people trying to get relatives out of Cuba, which is just tragic all the way around. For me, it's not just the people that got killed. They apparently didn't get their relatives out because they got 6 other people that were now taken into Cuba. So, but either way, if these, we also don't know if these were Americans, you know what I mean? Just American citizens, or maybe Cuban exiles trying to get fellow Cubans, or Cuban Americans getting Cuban citizens. A little bit complicated and uncertain tonight, and I'm looking for updates on it. If we get anything, we'll let you know. It was one of those speedboats that, if you've seen them in the 80s, we called them cigarette boats, and that's it was just kind of a euphemism for these big, long, gigantic speedboats that were known to be smuggling vessels for drugs and other things, because they were fast, they carried a lot of fuel, they could outrun just about everything on the water. And some people are commenting on this model number, and I've yet to see a picture of the specific model. But if we get any more details on that, we'll let you know. I have not heard or seen any kind of statement put out by our State Department. They're probably still trying to gather all the knowledge they can about the incident. The story was actually put out by a statement of the Cuban delegation at the U.S. Embassy. So I'm sure they've already had a briefing or a meeting with American officials to sort this out. Could this turn into an incident? We know that the Trump administration has got the Cubans in a hot box since the Venezuelan Maduro capture. That cut them off from some oil that they desperately need. Even the Iranian situation is affecting Cuba because of also energy deals between those 2 countries. That were all 3 smuggling oil around the world to get outside of sanctions. And now you got this personal incident that happened in the waters off Cuba. So we'll have to sit back and see how this gets sorted out. We got that story today. Still haven't seen any other follow-up on this reporting that the Fed showed back up at the Guthrie House today and started poking around and drilling, looking at the ground. We don't know what was going on, but it's a huge presence of the Feds. There's been a raid today on the LA City Unified School District headquarters of FBI agents. They went in and took out a lot of boxes, went into the home of the superintendent. A lot of people believe this is revolving around a bunch of stolen money or missing money in the school district out there. And that brings to mind J.D. Vance, who last night it was announced he was going to be in charge of the corruption the fraud probes of federal money being misapplied and mishandled around the country. J.D. Vance said that in a statement, I think today they did a news conference. I was trying to see if I could find a quick clip of it because I watched it a couple hours ago. But J.D. Vance says his estimate, now that he's in charge of this operation, is there could be as much as $300 million. Let me rephrase that. $300 billion that have been stolen from the federal government through these states because of this kind of corruption. And they also announced just a little while ago, and I've got this soundbite, that they're going to withhold $260 million from the state of Minnesota because of Medicaid fraud. That's going to be a kick in the Kiwis to Minnesota. We all know about the Somali fraud in Minnesota. Here's that sound from J.D. Vance earlier, just a little while ago.
Americans. So we're announcing today that we have decided to temporarily halt certain amounts of Medicaid funding that are going to the state of Minnesota in order to ensure that the state of Minnesota takes its obligations seriously to be good stewards of the American people's tax money. Now, what is this going to mean? What this means is that, first of all, the providers on the ground in Minnesota have actually already been paid. The state has paid those providers the money. What we're doing is we are stopping the federal payments that will go to the state government until the state government takes its obligations seriously to stop the fraud that's being perpetrated against the American taxpayer. There are a few different ways that we're doing that. There are a few different affirmative actions that we're taking today. Dr. Oz is going to talk about those, but let me talk a little bit about the spirit of this and why we're doing it. So
he goes on a little bit longer than we have right now for the rest of that clip, but see, it's interesting because then immediately you got the Reddit rhetorical nonsense from the left saying, oh, you're cutting off Medicaid people and poor people and old people. That's not what they're doing. As he pointed out, the state has that obligation. They get reimbursement by the feds. The feds leaving the state on the hooks until they become accountable. They've been holding their books. For a while, they would not turn over the illegal immigrants that were on their systems in violation of some federal laws that should not have been enrolled, so they wouldn't turn over the enrollees. They're still stonewalling the federal government, and now we know about all the theft with these fake Somali operations and then other countries that are involved in this stuff. So I love that fraud and the theft of the taxpayer money from the federal government by these corrupt blue states is getting front and center, and California is next. I'm telling you, California is going to make Minnesota look like a prank when we get done. So that was interesting and good news today on that front. All right, let's do some phone calls. We'll start with Jim in Winston County. What's up, Jim?
Things. Two quick things. One, on the tariff thing, in a free market, a person can mark up anything they want to mark up, and it's competitive. If you want to buy a product from one business and you get a better deal someplace else, you go someplace else. So if you have an item that is tariffed and the price goes up and you don't mark it up quite as much as you do another item, could be domestic, that's just normal course of business.
Yeah, they're recovering. They're recovering their business cost because of the overall tariff thing.
Right.
I think
that's right. It's cost of doing business. That's just normal. Secondly, I have been saying for years, and I'm an unaffiliated voter. I didn't belong to the independent party, but I've been saying for years the biggest problem we have, especially with the Democrats, is they're more loyal to their party than they are the country. And I haven't heard any talking heads ever use that exact thing. However, Fetterman said that the other day when he was talking about the State of the Union address and going to it, and was upset with his fellow Democrats because they were, quote, more loyal to their party than they were the country. And I'm just really glad that I actually saw somebody say that, let alone a Democrat.
Yeah, well, that was exactly what they demonstrated last night because their party said, sit on your hands and don't react to Trump. And then even though they had an obvious moment where they should have been patriots and saluted war heroes and sports heroes and just played along, if they made Fetterman the chair of their party and listened to the guy, they'd have a shot. I mean, they really would. They could get back to some sense of sanity, but they just really looked like idiots last night, and they gave the Republicans some video clips they're going to use for the rest of the midterms.
And I think that was the exact term that I think Trump used. I didn't plan on watching the speech last night because I've decided who I'm going to vote for. I mean, I actually think about things, use a little logic, and haven't lost touch with reality like so many Democrat politicians. So I wasn't going to waste my time, but it was so entertaining. I got to watch it, and I stayed up and watched it. It was just good entertainment.
Well, a lot of people came away happy about it. A good call, Jim. If I had to, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Jim.
Well, I was going to say thank you for what you guys do. I really appreciate your program and several of the programs on Talk 995. I've been a guest back a long time ago with some of the people on Talk 995, so I really appreciate you guys.
Well, thank you, Jim. That's kind of you to say that, and kind of you to call in today. And yeah, I had to admit it at the beginning of the show. I fell asleep during the Trump thing. Let's go to. I had to watch it, and then I fell asleep. Not that I didn't like it. I'm old and tired. Amos is up next. We'll switch to line 2, AJ. Amos, you got the floor, man. Go. Amos. Is Amos there, AJ? I hear road noise or something. I think he's a new caller, so he's got to figure it out. We may just put him on hold and keep on going.
Yeah.
Let's do that. And we'll come back to Amos here in just a minute. Douglas Cooling and Heating. I forgot to talk about them right off the top. Y'all, it's that time of year. You can already sense it. We're getting back in the 70s. Let's get those spring cleanups done. It's important. It really is. I'm not trying to cost you money. Literally, I'm trying to save you money. If you do this twice a year, your system runs better. It saves you on your power bills. Think about it. If you remember when you had to wear a COVID mask and you couldn't breathe? You depleted of oxygen because of these morons that made you do it. It was so ridiculous. Well, it's kind of like your system. When it's dirty and it can't breathe, it doesn't run as efficiently. It has to struggle to exchange the air in your home. You need it clean. You need it running right. Check all the connections. Check the charge on the system so it's not burning itself out trying to keep your house going. And y'all know how we run those ACs when it really gets hot. This is the South, man. It's alive and death down here to have air conditioning in the summer. So take care of your unit, and it'll keep you cool all summer. And get Douglas out there and get this spring tune-up done. If you've got an older system in it, eventually you're going to need a replacement. Don't wait till it pops, because it always happens. It's going to blow up in the hottest day we have. When it's working its hardest, then it just goes out, and then you're in line trying to get a replacement, because a lot of units will go out when we get to that weather in June and July. And it's better to do this when you can schedule it in a controlled environment when it's not so hot. They've got finance plans. They put in these superior Bryant systems. Let them get that changed out for you and give you some extended warranties, and then you're good to go for a long time. Douglas has taken care of me and every property I've owned in the last 16 years. They've been with us since we started this show, and I highly recommend them to you. License number 2017181. You can get them at Call Douglas, CALL, calldouglas.com, and they'll get right over there. Jay and his team are just great at what they do. Get in the system. Calldouglas.com. Back here in just a minute. It's 5:23. There we go. Leland Live Talk 99.5, Birmingham Broker, longtime sponsor of the show. Craig's become a really, really close friend of mine over the years, and gotten to know Keith too. These guys are great. They always step up and sponsor all the stuff we do, and just step up in every way for our listeners, especially when you got a car deal to do. It's a brokerage. They're going to handle the deal for you. You got people now. You don't have to go through the indignity of meeting some Yahoo in a parking lot so they can insult your car and try to haggle with you. Let Craig and Keith handle all that. They'll prep the vehicle, get it market ready, help you establish a price that's good for you, and try to get you more than that. And then, of course, get out there and do all the marketing work, do the haggling, find you a buyer, transact the deal, do the paperwork, get that check, and then get that check to you. If you're willing to give it up for a few days and let them get it on the market for you, that's the only, there's no catch, but that's the only thing about it. When you go to trade one in at a dealer, you instantly drop off in another car, but then you get ripped off. You've just lost thousands of dollars, and it's not smart. Give it some time, let them take over and handle it for you. Then go find a new car somewhere else, and you're good to go. It's just smart business. I'll never trade a different way again. It's Birmingham Broker, BHAMBroker.com, BHAMBroker.com. All right, let's get on over to the phones. Hey, do we still have the three here on my list? I think we'll start at the top with Elmer on line 2. What's up, Elmer?
Hey, Leland, great show. Hey, just a shout out to whoever picked your bumper music. Awesome.
Okay, cool.
Hey, I just wanted to see you mentioned that the libtards on the left showed their true colors by not standing up for anything, and even how President Trump had said, if your first duty as a government official is to protect U.S. citizens, and they didn't even stand up for that. So just shows their true colors. But I wanted to go back to the U.S. men's national hockey team showing up. And I don't know if you saw the clip of them inside the White House in the Oval Office.
I saw a little bit of that.
Anyway,
yeah.
Okay, they were joking around with him and stuff. But here's a little known fact. If you've ever seen the show, the movie, The Miracle, it's actually about the 1980 hockey team that won the gold in Lake Placid. If you I just saw this the other day. If you look close enough, the guy that scored the winning goal for the U.S., the golden goal, his name was Jack Hughes. But if you look at that movie, in the beginning of the movie where they're cutting all the players and stuff, this is back in 1980. One of the guys that they cut, his name was Jack Hughes.
Really?
So
are you serious?
Yeah,
in real life or just in the movie? Did the movie use the real names?
In the movie, they used that name as the person that got cut.
Oh, wow.
But of course, the guy in real life, his name is Jack Hughes. So it was just like a little known fact. I just wanted to.
Okay, that's totally surreal. You know what? I have to admit, I've never seen the movie, but I did watch that game because I was in the 8th grade, and I had a teacher that was so into the Olympics, and he was an English teacher, but we didn't do any English that day, and he pulled the TV in, and we watched. We didn't get to see the whole thing, but it was when they beat the Soviets. Now, a lot of folks forget they didn't beat the Soviets to win the gold. They had to go on and beat Finland. But beating the Soviets alone was it was a world earthquake, and it was huge for our country.
They were so dominant. They were so dominant at that time.
Oh,
so.
yeah. And, the arch enemies of our country during the Cold War.
Yeah, great show, Leland. Thanks for taking my call.
All right, good stuff, Elmer. That's how you do it, man. Man, I got to go check that out now. I do want to watch that movie. I think we're gonna have I'm gonna have a dude weekend. We're gonna watch that old movie. Philip is up next, line 3. What's up, Philip?
Hey, Leland, I love your show.
Thanks, man.
I like your YouTube videos and all that too.
Well,
That's
thank you.
been great. What I was going to say was, I've been kind of thinking there's a lot of land being bought up by big corporations and stuff like that. And I understand all of that. The housing, D.R. Horton is really just.
And once again, the phone gremlin struck AJ. He was getting on a roll.
He was on a roll. I don't know what's going on.
And it has nothing to do with D.R. Horton. But we've had phone issues tonight where these phones just get cut off. If he calls back, we will put him back on the top. I think that was Philip, right? Let's go to Kim while we wait on Philip to call back. Kim is up next, line 4. What's up, Kim?
Body a traffic report, Highway 280 at Highland Lakes. Shelby County Sheriff's Office is having to direct traffic, so it's got eastbound lanes slowed way down. And just use caution. Be careful with those police officers up there working.
Absolutely. Thank you, Kim. And they're right at the top of the hill. I used to live there and turned in that area many, many times. And yeah, that is right on the crest of the mountain right there. So a mess this afternoon, and slowly roads tomorrow, especially y'all plan on leaving the house a little early tomorrow or wherever you're going, because it's just going to be a really nasty weather day for travel. But that's a good tip. That is 280 outbound from Kim right around Highland Lake. So look for that one. I tell you what, I want to get Tom in here, but we're bumping up against real close to a break. Tommy over at Hueytown Pond reached out and said he's got so many people coming in the store. This is a good problem to have, that they had to make people stand outside. They were at their fire capacity. You have so many people you can let in with the fire code. People are taking up on these deals over at Hueytown Pond, especially on these AR shotguns. Y'all are going to buy him out. He had these latest ones that came in were $299. The ones he had last batch were $279. Ask him what they got left. But in the meantime, go get to know him over in Hueytown. It is a legit gun counter with new stuff along the tactical lines, personal carry, hunting stuff, sound suppression, scopes. They got a little bit of everything, and the greatest guys in the world to do business with. If you want a deal, go to Hueytown Pond on Brook Lane Drive. Hueytown Pond. It's 5:35, leading live. Let's bump on over to Stockton Mortgage and talk to Thompson, see what he's got shaking tonight. Thomas, what is happening in your world? I think there's been a lot of activity lately. What are y'all dealing with?
Man, we've been dealing with awesome clients, and wanted to tell you a success story. Hadn't told you one of those recently, and had a client called me, one of your listeners that contacted us a while back, and we talk about some of our unique programs that we have. We have all of the traditional, the conventional loans and VA loans and USDA and all those other programs, but we do have some programs that can help in special situations where you may have a self-employed borrower that may write off, legally write off a lot of their income where they won't have to pay as much income tax on it. Well, sometimes that can paint you in a corner where you can't qualify for a traditional mortgage. We have programs available where we can use your bank statements to qualify you. Well, we've talked about that on your show. Well, one of your listeners heard us talking about that, and they contacted us, and this client had never purchased a home because they were never able to qualify, and they heard us talking about that. We got them qualified, and we closed on their home this month. So, man, they were so excited. This is their very first home, never been a homeowner, had never even attempted to qualify for a home because they were, they knew that their income on their taxes, they were showing basically no income, and because they wrote everything off. But when they heard us talking about that program, that bank statement program, they immediately contacted us and said, hey, they had just heard me on the radio. They wanted to talk about that. So we sat down and had a consultation, and they sent me some information. The information to be able to take a look at it, got them pre-qualified. They had great credit, and they had cash flow in their bank statements, and we were able to qualify them to buy a new home, and we closed on it this month. So they are moving into their new house. So
excellent work.
That is
that.
It is, man. It's so exciting to be able to, when people want to buy a home, and they're sitting around thinking, I'm never going to be able to buy a home because of my situation. Well, that may not be the case. Give us a call. Let us sit down, have a conversation, and just see where you are. And that's what we keep harping on and talking about, every night. Everybody's situation is different. There's more than likely there is a way forward for you. So give us a call, 205-859-8859, or savewithstockton.com.
Savewithstockton.com. Y'all, that's a great little site. They'll get right back with you. And, don't talk yourself out of it before you at least have a conversation with Stockton. Savewithstockton.com. Thank you, Thomas.
Yes, sir. Thank you, man.
All right, buddy.
Bye-bye.
Man, we're just getting on with it, and we're almost out of show. We're almost out of runway. Is Tom still there, AJ? We'll try Tom. Hopefully his phone won't get cut off. We've had a few of those tonight. If it does, I apologize.
I'm here.
Advance. Go, Tom. What you got, man?
I think this might be important for some of the other potential voters out there. I just got looked like a real official letter. I'm not affiliated with the Republican Party. I don't think you are either, but I'm never registered for a party. But I voted for the Orange Man. They seem to know that. But they sent me a letter and said, our records indicate da-da-da-da, and you're at you're registered at this Madison precinct register, and please fill this out. As a loyal Republican, they're trying to get me to affiliate.
Well,
I don't have to do that.
No, let me pause you there. We don't have, a lot of folks get this confused because other states do this.
That's what I want to tell you. Yeah. Thank you. Go ahead.
Well, we don't have party registration in the state of Alabama. Some states, to vote in a Republican primary, you got to register as a Republican. Only if you're registered can you participate in their primary. We have something here called open primaries. Both parties do this. Now, there's a huge argument right now going on to force closed primaries and get a little more restrictive. And some it's coming because we've got a bunch of turncoats down in the Montgomery, down in the legislature doing a lot of Democrat kind of things. They didn't change their values down there. They just changed jersey colors, and they're doing the same crap. So, but the Republicans have been arguing against it. There are others that don't. But the bottom line is, I don't know what you got. It may just be them trying to get you signed up to give them money or something.
Yeah,
But
well,
this-
that's the other thing down at the bottom. Yeah, of course, send this back in, and you're welcome to donate to help
Oh,
us.
sure, yeah. Yeah.
Well, so next question. This might be important with upcoming elections.
All right.
Is there anything that's going to happen in the state of Alabama that we have to do, bring more than just our driver's license, not a real ID, just a driver's license, or your birth certificate, or to vote? Does anybody have to do that in the state of Alabama?
Yeah, we have identity requirements here in Alabama. Driver's
Well, I mean,
license.
I've been taking my driver's license in, but if you don't have a real ID, you just got a driver's license.
Yeah, they will provide you one ahead of the election, or you can take your DL.
All right, so what you're saying is, yes, if you're going to vote, go get your real ID and your birth certificate and all that. That's important. I just wanted you to say that out your own mouth.
Well, there are other forms of identity that the state does allow. You just got to prove you are who you say you are, and you can read all about that online when you go to vote.
That's what I wanted to know, and have you tell everybody that trust you. So,
all right, then. I think we got
God
that clear.
bless, and talk to you
Tim.
later.
All right, man. Good questions. Let me do some clarity, though, since we're on the subject, because we will be approaching a May primary, and likely, and especially in the Senate race, to be heading into a runoff, maybe the LG race as well. We don't have party registration, but we do have a closed runoff. Let me see if I can make sense of this without getting too in the weeds. If in order to vote in a runoff election, you got to stick with the party you chose that cycle. In other words, if you vote Republican in May, there's a runoff, I think 6 weeks later. Only if you voted in the original runoff can you vote, or in the original primary race, can you vote in a runoff in the same party. You can't cross over. In other words, you can't vote Democrat in the first go round and then switch parties and influence a runoff. That's by design because of an issue that goes back to 1986 called crossover voting, which led to a whole change in our governor's race that year. That's a long story. Some of you lived through that, but we don't register by party. In other words, you can walk into the poll in any election year in a primary and just declare your party at the poll, and they'll either give you the Democrat ballot or the Republican ballot, and then you go vote. But you're locked in for that year to vote in the runoff phase with the party you started with. Now, in the general, so as to be clear, you can vote who you want to. You can go down the ballot and vote Democrat, then a Republican in the next race and split your ticket. And some people do that. So just know that we're not one of those states, but we do have identity requirements. And I don't think anything has changed in the legislature this time to have changed the way you've been voting and the requirements that we have. We're one of, I think, 28 or 29 states that do have ID. What they're working on with the SAVE Act is to require in federal elections, and we do have federal elections on the ballot this year, to also add a citizenship requirement. Democrats hate that because they're counting on all these illegals that they brought into the country to be their new base. And they're trying to keep that from getting unwound the next 3 years so they can, all they got to do, here's their play. And it's not just them, it's the money people that pay for everybody in Washington. They want Thune to get in the way of the SAVE Act so that the Democrats can control one of the chambers to slow Trump down. Fact. It's not just the party. It's the globalists. It's the corporate overlords. It's the professional politicians. It's a $20 billion a year industry. And that whole industry has been upended by Trump's presence for almost 10 years now. They want him gone, out of the way, and neutralized. Some of them want him killed. And he's in the way of that. The SAVE Act and what they squeezed out of the House is in the way of that. The reason they just allowed it to come out of the House is because it's much easier to slow things down and kill it in the Senate. I do believe they want this thing to be dead, and Thune will pay a price for it. And honestly, the Republican Party will pay a price for it in the midterms because the base is going to sit home. If they can't get this passed, the base is going to stay home. You can't fearmonger enough with Trump off the ballot. There's some pro-Trump people that are just they're not loyal to the Republican Party. Trump brought them to the table. If you're going to not back up the most common sense thing that's come along in 50 years for these Republicans, they're not going to vote. And some of these swing districts are going to go the wrong way. The country will be worse off for it. That's all down to Thune. What does Thune care about? I don't know him personally, but I got a feeling he's going to do what the establishment wants. Even though today he says it will come up for a vote. Maybe he's right. I hope he is. I hope they let him vote. And allegedly we have 50 votes for the SAVE Act. Vance would be the 51st. And then it passes. And then we got at least a real framework of security for the federal elections that's going to cause a scramble this year. And I'm sure the Democrats are already working on how they can cheat and get around that if it passes. But if it doesn't pass, the prospect of paralyzing Trump's agenda is very real. If they control one chamber, Trump's he's done. We'll be back into phony impeachments and histrionic and fake committees and investigations and chaos. But think about this. If you're a money player in that system and you've already bought off members of Congress, chaos is good for you because nothing changes. You're not under threat. You've controlled any opposition to the rules you've already created and built for yourself. You'd rather have that chaos in a locked government than a reform government if you're part of the grift. You want to go back to the old rules. Trump is upending that stuff right now. That's why they wanted to move on quickly from the 2020 election. They didn't want you to discover how easy it was for them to just steal it. This is not Democrat versus Republican. Hear me now. This is not a Democrat versus Republican issue. They've got it all teed up that way. And you won't find a single Republican that's going to say anything otherwise. But truthfully, it is a bunch of power people that will use whatever players they've got to graveyard anything they need to keep themselves in control. And it's going to be impressive to see them try to make this happen in the Senate. I'm pulling for it. I will celebrate the day it does. We'll play boogie music for bumper music the whole show the day this thing passes. But I am super skeptical right now, and I do not trust John Thune, period. Just don't. Allen and Company next up here on the show. For all of your gift giving, as we get into engagement season and graduation season, I haven't talked enough about that lately. Coming up just here in a couple months, that graduate's going to be a walk in with the stuff and getting the diplomas. And that's such a special time. And it's always that year, that year will be with you. That's the year I graduated. You can have that commemorated on just about anything at Allen and Company. They do laser etching. They can also design a custom piece, maybe with the school colors, anything you want to commemorate that graduate. Y'all look into it. Or maybe maybe she just wants a nice pair of earrings for a graduation gift. Well, go ahead and shop at Allen and Company and get it done the custom way, where you get that personal care of a family business that's been there for now 2 generations and just taking good care of people. You got a master jeweler, and they can handle all your maintenance too. Allen always tries to get things turned around in a week, does all the work himself. That stuff never has to leave his facility. It'll stay right there in his vault, safe and secure. It's not being shipped around. Get it right back to you. It's Allen and Company in Vestavia on Highway 31. Allen and Company. You know, we got so much rain coming in tomorrow. They always say a good time to know if you've got any kind of leaks in your roof is to go up in your attic. I'm not trying to cause y'all any trouble, and be careful, but go up in your attic, use a flashlight. You can tell if you got on a heavy rain day, you know, if you got anything seeping through. Some of you know you got issues or just need to get my man at Storm Restoration Roofing, Greg Nelson, to come take a look. There are two kind of categories to roof work. You either got an older roof that's expired, you got to get the whole thing done. It's not an insurance claim. It's just too old. Lifespan's gone. That happens. Roofs are designed to be replaced, actually. Then, of course, you got the emergency stuff where you got a leak, you had some damage, you got an insurance claim. Greg is adept at his company after going on 30 years in the business and handling all these kind of things. But what you do know in both sides of that equation, project's going to be done right. He's a true expert. He's got his family working in the business. He knows how to put this stuff in correctly. I tell you a lot, if you have a roof project done and the installer doesn't do it correctly, the manufacturer of the product doesn't have to abide by the warranties in a lot of cases. So you need a quality installer like Greg Nelson at Storm Restoration just to do the project. Then beyond that, when it comes to scrapping up the money to do it, he's got finance companies that'll help you get a bigger project financed, or they can even help you with your deductible if you do have an insurance claim. And by the way, on insurance claims, don't go call your adjuster first. If there's a reason for them to deny, they're going to do it. But if you document your claim and you can show them where it happened, what the damage is, and when it happened, and really button that up and present that to your insurance companies, you got a better shot at getting covered. And Greg knows these adjusters and what they require. He's worked with all of them. So trust him. Put this number somewhere in case you do have an emergency. He works on a main phone number, and it's 205-542-3531, 205-542-3531, Storm Restoration Roofing. Man, I wasn't even going to get into this, but I was scrolling around during the break, always looking for the latest headlines, see if we got updates on this Cuban boat thing, which I find fascinating. We'll see if that turns into a big deal or not. But I saw this story out of Germany. As you know, Germany has been overtaken by Islam, and not as much as the United Kingdom, but there's several countries there. And again, this is by design of the globalists to dilute the West. It's not a conspiracy theory, y'all. It's been happening on a parallel track here and there, here in the United States and there. It's part of a bigger agenda. They know what they're doing, divide and conquer. And the one thing you can do to divide a country is to institute a whole foreign culture that does not assimilate and does not want to assimilate, but wants to intimidate and dominate wherever they go. That's not even an insult. Maybe you could even consider it a compliment. But since around the 700 AD, the Muslims have dominated everywhere they've gone. They are there to conquer. They never acquiesce. They have a legal system that is inconsistent with the United States Constitution, period. They can't exist side by side in their own world. Forget our world for a minute. We should be guarding everything about the Constitution, but they'll never accept it because it's not allowed. The provisions of freedom in our founding document are not allowed under Sharia law. They're just not. And they're not going to give up their faith to be here. They're just going to come here and keep doing what they do. And now we're seeing incidents of that in all over Europe. Now, the Europeans are a gigantic bag full of wimps. And they have slowly acquiesced to the point where, I don't know why this is more symbolic than anything. They've had prayers in the streets. Paris has had ghettos, no-go zones, where these people have moved in and set up shop. You can't go there. You can't walk down the street if you're a woman without a headdress on or getting beaten just like they would in Tehran. All this stuff's been happening. Rape culture has showed up all over Scandinavia. They've got a mass escalation in that stuff. And so those are more serious things. This is not so serious, but it does make a point. McDonald's in Germany has blocked out all the pictures of food on their billboards during Ramadan. Maybe you could say they're just being sensitive, but that's what happens to your culture. Now everybody else in Germany has to acquiesce to Ramadan. You got to hide whatever they require for their faith, and they're coming in and shoving that on everybody in Germany. And the Germans haven't been known over the years for being hypersensitive, have they? They are now. That country is almost lost. The UK is. I think it's too late there. Anyway, that story sort of incensed me. and I'm not even German. Alabama Gold Refinery, boy, you talk about a place and a resource for you during troubled times or good times. It's always good to have these commodities, gold, silver, platinum. It's always good to have a safe place where you can exchange them from time to time. Sometimes you're in a buying mood. Sometimes you need to sell. You're bringing in your cash and your valuables to a safe location over at Alabama Gold Refinery, and they'll just do the deal with you. Fair pricing, cool guy Steve, wealth of knowledge about how all this stuff works. You're doing it in person, anonymously, with all the tax incentives here in Alabama to do these kind of transactions. It's Alabama Gold Refinery there in Homewood on 29th, right across from the big Regions building right there. You know where I'm talking about, in the original Zoe's location. Y'all go see Steve and do yourself some deals. Start collecting silver, gold, do some trading. He'll buy your scrap. He'll trade you gold for gold. It's just a fine shop to do this kind of stuff and a fascinating place to visit. In Homewood, across from the Regions Bank, AGR, Alabama Gold Refinery, alabamagoldrefinery.com. That's going to be it for a Wednesday. Y'all try to stay dry tomorrow, and we will see you on the other side. Stay tuned for Breaking Bread.
Goodbye, AJ.